Why does discrimination exist? It seems so unfair.
Discrimination, a tricky subject, but one we must tackle. Let's start from the beginning. Discrimination was born out of a basic human instinct, fear of the unknown. Imagine ancient times when people lived in small tribes. They didn't know much about others outside their group, so they feared them. This fear led to mistrust and eventually to discrimination.
So it's like being scared of a shadow because you don't know what's making it?
Exactly. People tend to judge others based on what they see, hear, or assume, rather than taking the time to understand them. But here's where it gets interesting. Discrimination didn't just stay in the realm of fear. It evolved. As societies grew, so did the reasons for discrimination: skin color, religion, gender, wealth. What started as fear turned into a tool for maintaining power and control.
You mean people use discrimination to keep others down?
Sadly, yes. Once certain groups gained power, they used discrimination to ensure they stayed on top. They created rules, laws, and even social norms that made it difficult for others to rise. It's like building a ladder with missing rungs for everyone else but keeping your own ladder intact.
That's sneaky. But don't people realize how unfair it is?
Here's the tricky part. Over time, discrimination became so ingrained in society that many didn't even question it. It became normal. But underneath, there's always been a conflict between what people know is right and what society tells them is acceptable. That's why you'll often find a superficial response when discrimination is pointed out. Like a quick apology or a public statement, without addressing the deeper issues.
So, those quick apologies are like putting a bandage on a broken bone. It doesn't really fix anything.
Spot on. The real issue lies in the deep-seated feelings people harbor. These are the biases and prejudices that have been passed down through generations. They're not always visible, but they influence how people think and act. Think of it like an iceberg. What you see above the water is just a small part of the whole problem.
So, if we only focus on the surface, the real problem stays hidden. But why do people hold on to those deep-seated feelings?
That's a great question. It's often because those feelings provide a sense of identity or belonging. People like to feel they're part of a group, and sometimes that means excluding others. Plus, change is hard. Admitting you've been wrong or that your beliefs are flawed takes a lot of courage.
You mean it's easier to just keep believing the same old things, even if they're wrong?
Precisely. But here's an interesting bit of trivia. Did you know that discrimination isn't just a human trait? Animals, too, can show preferential treatment towards those who look or act like them. For example, in some bird species, individuals will favor their own kin over others. It's a natural instinct, but unlike animals, humans have the ability to question and overcome those instincts.
So, we can choose to do better?
Exactly. Discrimination may have started from fear, but it continues because of ignorance and unwillingness to change. But the good news is, with education and empathy, those deep-seated feelings can be challenged and changed. It starts with awareness, then questioning, and finally, taking action.
So, when someone says something discriminatory, we should ask why they think that way, right?
Yes, and also help them see things from a different perspective. It's not about shaming them but guiding them to understand why their beliefs might be flawed. The more we do this, the more we chip away at those deep-seated feelings.
I get it now. It's like we have to dig deep to pull out the roots of a weed, not just trim the leaves.
Exactly. Discrimination is a tough weed to pull, but with persistence and understanding, we can clear the garden for everyone to grow equally.